Hello everybody, welcome back to the Namaste podcast. Today we have the first ever face-to-face guest, Gillian.
Hello.
Woo! And Ollie, gorgeous Ollie.
Hello.
So we're actually going to start today by doing a little prayer.
Yeah, I think that would be nice. Oi. It's just spotted someone coming in. Oi, that's a friend. Right, so our prayer is, I thought it'd be nice to bring the grandparents in.
Yeah.
So my Granny Warner was a very eccentric, radiant woman, lots of love there, very intelligent woman. She's a bit suspicious of the government and stuff, all that sort of thing. My grandfather, Pappy, was like a really sort of nice, he was good at explaining things, so I'd like to try and invoke some of that. Very kind man. My Granny Hames, very practical, job that's worth doing, it's worth doing well, dot the I's, cross the T's. She was a school teacher, so I want to bring some of that in as well, some teachings from her. And my grandfather, my grandpa, he was a really big smile, really happy, nice man, and he just passed away recently.
Oh.
So he's up there, and
Yeah.
I've got his coat that I wear.
Oh.
It's lovely walking around with his coat on.
I walk around with my papa's fleece, the black
Oh.
one. Yeah.
Nice.
It's nice to carry a bit of something, isn't it?
Yeah. So there you go. That's
calling in the elders.
Calling in the elders.
Yeah. The wise ones who come before us.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to call in my grandparents too. My gran and my papa and my nana and my granddad who've all passed into spirit, and invoke their wisdom as well.
Oh, lovely. Great.
So we're going to start the podcast. I'm actually going to slightly move this. Oh.
Yeah.
We're going to start the podcast by just going in deep, and with beautiful Ollie walking around, I'm going to ask you, what does reality mean to you, and how do you perceive this world and this life that we live in?
Great question. I'm glad you asked me that. Not that we planned that or anything. Right, okay, so I've been thinking about this for like 50 years, I'm 53 years old. Basically the ancients, they tried to, how can we sort of like divide and conquer this? How can we work out what reality is about? And for them, there was this kind of like split between the male and the female energies. Mm-hmm. So, as Manly Hall sort of said, you've got the feminine aspect, the mother, the mater in Latin, the mater, the matter in physics, the physical reality. Mm-hmm. It's all there in the language. So you've got that side of it, and then the masculine side of it is more akin to consciousness, more akin to the pater. Pater being the father, in Latin pater.
Matter and pater.
And pattern.
Pattern.
It's about information, about that side of it as well. So there's this kind of split which occurs, and this is how the ancients perceived it. And if you think about we're living in this physical realm with our bodies and all of this, but also there's this whole thing going on with our consciousness as well. And and that's more of the inner world, and so yeah, I mean.
So you see our bodies as different to consciousness.
Yeah, and I think one of the important things to understand, really, it's a big wake up for me, was that consciousness is not an effect of the brain. Mm-hmm. Consciousness is already there and can animate any machine that's got the capacity for quantum computation, which our brains have. And indeed, I believe that the inside of the sun is a massive quantum computer, and sitting behind that is a massive solar consciousness.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean.
Was there anything in particular that led you to that connection with the sun and that idea of consciousness in the sun?
Yeah, I think the whole pagan thing. I mean, the ancients were worshipping the sun. Mm-hmm. If you look at the structure of the universe, in our little domain where we live, what's the biggest thing around? It's the sun.
Oh.
For light years, you've got the sun, and you've got the main planets that go around the sun.
Yeah.
And so really, that solar consciousness is like the big sort of centre of everything for us here. Mm-hmm. And you can go outside of the sun. You could go to the centre of the galaxy and talk about the stars of the galaxy, or you could even go to the whole universe and talk about all of that. You could talk about God, which Pythagoras defined as being the collective you know, the collective of all. God is everything.
Yeah.
You know,
All one.
not everything and every thought.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah. I mean, yeah. So yeah.
The reality is more than what we perceive.
Yeah.
More than just this earthly flowers and human body, because there's something that I think people have been trying to explain this for like eons,
Well,
like hundreds of years.
If you go back to, I mean, you go back thousands of years, then we've got paganism, which worship the sun, right? You know, Stonehenge being, you know, I think it's a marriage between the sun and the moon, you know, all of that. But in more recent times, with the Renaissance, sort of 1500s, that's when, you know, basically the church was saying, you won't be talking about the spiritual stuff. You can talk about the physics. We'll allow you the fact that the earth goes around the sun, right?
Yeah.
Rather than, you know, so that kind of opened the door to the whole of astronomy and science and all the rest of it. But what's happened is that, so in physics, in an explanation of the physical reality using scientific methodology, we've got this kind of like, a much deeper understanding of how to build things, and hence we build computers and all that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we're still in the dark ages when it comes to applying science to spirituality, to consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And yet science, the thing is that a lot of people demonise science because of all the, you know, say the nuclear bombs and all the things that have been done with it, you know. But the science methodology it's not to be demonised, because all that's saying is look at the observation, you know, look at that experiment, you know, see how reality works just by observation, and see if you can repeat things, you know. And you can do that with spirituality.
Yeah, I've started to notice, in my own experience, I've never seen like the hard science, or I've never seen like the real people doing it, but I've heard of more scientists bringing in this knowledge of consciousness and their findings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at Dr. Emoto's work. I mean, he was looking at the way that, this goes back to what the bleep, sort of 2005 era, and this is what, you know, a lot of us started waking up then. You know, I mean, you're a bit young for that, you know. And don't be
the 2000 baby.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be fooled by The Secret, which came a little bit after, when they were trying to dumb down something that what the bleep was bringing forwards, because, you know, that talked about the whole idea that the observer, as in quantum physics, you know, if you're looking at, like, say, the double slit experiment, you know, the way that the particle... We're
back. Ollie was just moving around.
Ollie's doing his thing. There's a bit of chaos going on around me, but that's fine. Yeah.
See, we can find calm in the chaos.
We'll talk about chaos, we'll talk about randomness and synchronicity.
Yeah.
But let's just do the sort of quantum thing first.
Yes.
Yeah, because what the bleep really brought out the fact that, you know, you've got this double slit, you don't know which way the particle's going to go, and in fact, if you don't look, it seems to sort of create the pattern as if it's gone through both slits. But as soon as you try and observe it, then it will go through, you know, one of the slits, and it seems to be that the actual act of observation kind of like makes the material reality snap into. It's not in superposition anymore. It's actually snapped into a defined thing, and that's the truth. There is truth, because the thing is, people reject absolute truth. They'll say, oh, you know, there's no such thing as absolute truth. You've got one man holding the tusks of an elephant, and he'll say that an elephant is really hard. One man holding the tail and say it's like a piece of rope. One man pushing on the sides of the elephant, saying it's like a big warm wall. You know, so they're all perspectives, they're all relative truths, but there's still an elephant in the room, and that's the absolute truth.
I love that.
There has to be an absolute truth, and to reject the absolute truth leads you into a place where you can't do science anymore. And if you
because people are just looking at one thing instead of the whole, like what's really there.
Yeah. And if all those men in the room talk to each other, they'll all know what an elephant really is.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So.
And then perhaps somebody else will come in and discover an elephant's ear, and they can all learn that.
And they'll keep learning it.
Yeah.
Because they know that the absolute truth is something which we can't really grasp with our minds. You know. We need to, you know.
I really love that. I've never looked at it that way before.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's going back to what the bleep days, and that was something that started waking people up, you know. Because the thing is with like, if the observer is involved in snapping that micro reality into place, what the bleep sort of propositioned was that in the macro reality, the bigger things, the things that we can see, you know, that those are also in superposition until the consciousness can grab hold of it.
Wow.
So for example, right, I had an ayahuasca experience once. I was in the jungle, been doing some fasting for a few days, and I just got lonely, and my girlfriend was in Iquitos, you know, sort of like 100 kilometres down the road or whatever. That's actually 12 kilometres, that's an exaggeration. But I knew, and I just thought, right, okay, I'm just going to phone her up and just say, well, why don't you just come out for the night, you know, I'm just missing you. So I grabbed my phone and I started thinking about it, and, you know, sort of thinking, well, she could already be on her way, you know, she could already be, I've already decided that she was going to come here, that she was on a bike, that she was on her way, because everything outside of what you're doing at that time is in superposition. It could be anything. The time snapping that material reality into place isn't a straightforward flow with time. It depends on what consciousnesses are observing it. There could be historical things, historical to you, i.e. what's happened since I've been on my own in this retreat, which hasn't actually been snapped into reality yet. So if you can grab hold of that and manifest, then... So I rang her, and the phone rang, and she was outside.
No way!
Yeah.
See, what I would... I love your way of explaining it, because how I would explain that is shifting timelines. And how how to put this into words. Oh, he's having a great time. How reality really can be so many different things, and that you'd already planted that seed of consciousness, and there it was. Yeah. I mean, you know, invoked somewhat by this amazing psychedelic portal, which does seem to invoke synchronicity. You know, I mean, there's ways to get the synchronicity without the psychedelic, you know, dimension, of course. You know, but Terence McKenna said it, you know, if you want to get there in 20 minutes, drink a cup of ayahuasca. I mean, it might be a bit of a cheat, but it does work, you know. I mean, there's the other way, is like going through all the Vedic practices, all the different yogas and everything, and, you know, and do it properly, you know, over a lifetime. You know. Wow.
But, yeah, I mean, this was one of the things that came out with the ayahuasca, which, I'll tell you a little story.
Yes.
Okay.
I'd love to hear a story. Right. I'm sure all the audience would love to hear a story too.
A little story. Right. I won't go on about synchronicity too much, but you know, they are the signposts, the shamanic signposts that guide you through life if you follow in that path.
And for anybody watching who may not feel like they're in synchronicity just now, I've found that actually synchronicity is happening all the time. And just like you were saying about the elephant, you may be looking at one thing, and actually when you open your eyes a bit more, you start to notice how things really can be miraculous in front of you.
Yeah.
Like, exactly. I think everything is always like synchronistic.
Yeah. I mean, because if you're always looking for 1 1 1 2 2 2 3 3 3 on your clock, right? Then the higher intelligence is thinking you're not really giving us much bandwidth to communicate with you here.
If you're only looking at numbers.
If you well, not only numbers, but patterns of numbers. I mean, if you start thinking, well, 1 2 3 means easy as, it means it's going to be easy for you. 3 2 1 means it's not going to be so easy. You know, you create your own sort of bandwidth of numbers, and then you can use that randomness to invoke more communication with higher intelligence. You're giving them a wider bandwidth to play with.
Wow.
And that sort of like comes with more advanced sort of like synchronicity. I mean, I define synchronicity as being randomness that is actually controlled by the grace of higher intelligence to go in a particular way where you can see that there must be some sort of thought behind it. Then it's been put there to help you.
That's the best explanation I've ever heard of it.
Well, I mean, there's loads.
Thank you.
There's loads. But I'll give you this story. This
yeah.
was the second in my life when I realised that there must be a higher intelligence. Because before then it had always been going to spiritualist church when I was about 21 years old, you know, sitting there in the seance and everything, and then, you know, all the women sort of like going on about, oh, like, I think I've got Mary, and she's giving you a flower and this kind of thing. And some of it really sort of like, there was synchronicity there, but it wasn't enough for me, you know, because you could always explain it away with something else.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was in Peru, and it was like about one of the earlier sort of ayahuascas. I'd only been there for like a few weeks, you know. And some shaman had said to me, well, imagine that you've got like 300-year-old family sitting in the room that could explain anything to you because they can see everything, you know. And what would you ask them, you know? And
good question.
yeah, I mean, a lot of people go now and sort of like, okay, how do I heal my inner trauma as a child and that sort of thing? And I probably should do that at some point, but I haven't got around to that yet. So, but my thing was like, how can I live to be 140? Right? I just wanted to know. I mean, what would I have to do to live to be 140? Right? So I was in this ayahuasca ceremony, and I was determined to get the answer. I was just like, you know, no, I want to know. You know, so they're showing you all these snakes and, you know, these jaguars. So, yeah, lovely, but how do you live to be 140?
In
all
the
these...
ayahuasca trip, you were seeing the snakes and jaguars.
Yeah. I mean, you're hallucinating. You're seeing all of this coming in, and you know it's novel. It must be coming from somewhere. It's not coming from your subconscious because it's new. It's something that you don't feel that your mind could have derived by itself. You know, it's like a DVD that's just been downloaded that somebody that's really intelligent or whatever has given you it. You know, so it's like a gift. But you know, and then sort of looking at you know, oh yeah, these flowers are amazing, but how do I live to be 140? Oh yeah, those are nice Chipibe patterns. How do I live to be 140? 140. No, 140. 100. It's like
so
a
you
mantra.
had a bit of a mission.
It was a mantra. And in the end, I was just sitting there, 140, 140, 140. Anyway, went back to, after the ceremony, finished, didn't get the answer that I wanted. All right, you know, went back to the little room that I was staying in, and it was dark, and I just pressed the my digital watch just to see what the time was before I went to bed, and it was 14000.
Oh.
It just changed to 140 in the morning.
Oh,
it really did, and I knew in that second. I just smiled, and I just.
And that is synchronicity.
Like, I know you're there. I really know that you're there.
Yeah, I know you're listening.
Yeah.
I know you're supporting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what a feeling.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. The thing is with those feelings is that it stays with you. It might stay with you for a few days, but then it kind of dips down again.
Yeah.
So you need to keep being reminded.
Yeah.
You know. So that's why it's good to go back to whatever your practice is to try and, you know,
stay in that
invoke more synchronicity.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that was the big thing for me.
Yeah. So how long ago was that?
That was in 2006.
So I imagine since then, you've had quite a lot more synchronistic and beautiful moments.
Amazing, beautiful synchronicities. Really beautiful. But then the other thing is as well, is to reflect the synchronicity back at them, because they really like it. Yeah. Right. This is what a lot of pups. That's what a lot of sort of like sort of prayers and things are about. So I went to Egypt, right, to do an ayahuasca ceremony in the Great Pyramid in the King's Chamber on the 7th of the 7th of the 7th. Right, 7th of July 2007.
Oh
right?
my God.
I did it, I actually did it. I mean, it's fucking great. Sorry.
You can swear on here, it's okay.
It was crazy, right? I could have got arrested, all the rest of it, but I did it anyway.
Wow.
And it was just so brilliant because not only did I sort of like get all the things that went on in that ceremony in the King's Chamber, but also then afterwards when I got home, I was driving around in my car, so I had to come back to the UK and I had a few things to do in that. So I hired this car, and then when I went to drop the car off, it was on the trip counter 777.
No way.
Yeah, and it just kept getting more and more bizarre.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you're really sort of feeling in the light with that, and you're feeling that it's coming from benevolent spirits, and you're praying that it's coming from
pure
benevolent
love.
spirits, from love.
Yeah.
Exactly. Then it's beautiful. For some people, if they're sort of like absorbing a lot of sort of toxic stuff and they're waking up to things and it's a bit scary and all of this, synchronicities can start coming in and scare people even more. So, you know, it needs to be sort of like handled.
Like tiptoeing in a little bit. I think with awakening, I feel that when things, for some people it happens so fast at once, but I think there's a natural evolution of coming into this so-called relationship with benevolent, divine, God, source, whatever you want to call it. And there's that like opening up, I feel. Yeah,
I mean, and with the sun, going back to what we were talking about, you asked me about the relationship with the sun. And for me, solar sun, that's what I call solar sun, my friend solar sun. You're just kind of like, you're looking at it and you're sort of feeling it as a friend.
Yeah.
You know, your guides become your friends.
Yes.
You know, and you're talking to them a lot. And only in it doesn't matter. You don't have to vocalize it mentally, you know, physically. It's even in just in your mind.
Yeah.
You know, they're always there for you.
And then you notice when you start communicating more, they communicate back more when you have the openness.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you learn, like I've had experiences when I've been tuning in with my guides, and I'll learn things that I've never learned before from any human, from any experience as far as I'm aware. And it's like this information comes in somehow, and it's like, wow, where did that come from?
It really does. And I can give you an example of something that came in, right, which is not on the internet, which is like real physics, astronomy stuff, which you can check yourself, and it came through ayahuasca, right? So basically, it's a bit complicated, but I'll just take 2 or 3 minutes to explain it.
Of course.
So you probably already know that if you measure the diameter of the Earth, right, and you put 108 Earths side by side, that length is the same as the diameter of the Sun, okay? Which is why 108 is like one of the numbers that's important, right? Because also, if you put 108 suns side by side, then the distance of that is the distance from the Sun to the Earth. Okay?
Wow.
Yeah, but that's known, it's on the internet.
I have heard that before,
that.
but even just being reminded of that is like, oh my god.
Yeah, 108 is a really special number because it's 1 to the power 1 times 2 to the power 2, which is 4, times 3 to the power 3, which is 27, so 4 27s is 108, right? I mean, 108 beads on the, you know, it's everything, right? 108 is everything. But, so, okay, so that's all known. So I'm talking to the ayahuasca. It's this sort of thing I think about when I'm on ayahuasca, because I tend to be more physics, maths, that's my background, you know. And then it's like, well, actually, if you do that with some of the other planets, it works as well. Like Mercury, it's a small planet, right? But it's really close to the Sun. And if you measure, not in kilometres or miles, which are man-made arbitrary measures, right? But actually in terms of their own diameters, there's 108 squared Mercuries to get to the Sun, right? Yeah, within 1% accuracy. Yeah. 108 within 1% squared to the Sun. Saturn, it's a much bigger planet and it's a lot further out, right? But there's also 108 squared. And
you received that?
I got that from ayahuasca. That's not on the, you know, I don't know anyone who knows that. Do you know what I mean? You can check it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And would you say with ayahuasca, we don't need to dive in too deep with this if you don't want to, but would you say with ayahuasca, where is that knowledge coming from? Like, because that comes from the earth, would you say it's coming from the earth, or do you feel like it's coming from like a higher...
All I can say is it's coming from higher intelligence, right? I define higher intelligence as being intelligence which is higher than us, right? So it could be, I mean, even ETs, I mean, I sort of like include all of them as well, but they're living physical, you know, ETs.
ETs is an extraterrestrial beings.
Yeah. I mean, we'll cover that if you want, just real quick, but let's take a sidetrack. Come on.
Is he going to knock the camera?
Yeah, probably. Trying to do a podcast.
Our animal friends.
Sorry about the dog.
He's welcome. He's very welcome here.
That's good. Yeah. Right. So just to cover this off real quick, right? Yeah. So basically, the question is, right? How did we get here, and what's going on in the universe, right? In terms of people, right? Because you know, supposedly we've been on this planet, you know, for sort of like hundreds of thousands of years. We evolved from monkeys. All of that, and I used to believe in all of that. I thought that, of course.
Most people do.
Yeah. And then you've got the story that actually we were like zapped into being and put into this Garden of Eden, and you know, and if you can measure how long ago that was in terms of the generations of different people, and that it was about 6,000 years ago, right? So then you've got these two sort of conflicting kind of like, you know, so I've been sort of been talking to others and trying to work out, you know, well actually what's going on here, you know. So all right, so the first thing is, right, we know that the Earth is not the centre of the solar system. Yes. So we've already, from a physical point of view, removed our, you know, ego to say that we're the centre of everything physically, because it's not. But then it's not the Sun, because it's the centre of the Milky Way. It's not the centre of the Milky Way. It might be another place where things came from, right? But then if you do it spiritually as well, or consciously, we have to say that our consciousness, us as people, is not the centre of this great sort of like thing of consciousness.
Yeah.
Of course it isn't, right?
Yeah.
There's billions and billions of other people, different life forms, all the way across the universe.
Yes.
If you think about it, like say you went into a party and you went to the best party and there's loads of really interesting people there and they've all got different clothes and they've all got different faces and different numbers of fingers and all this sort of thing. Amazing. And there's a little child in the corner, you know, that it's just been put down to play for a little while. And that's where our planet Earth is, that's where we are.
Yeah.
You know, and no one's going to sort of like go over there and really try, you know, they're just, oh, how you doing? But it has to be left to sort of like, you know, to develop its own sort of thoughts. Otherwise, it would be overwhelmed. You know, so I think we're sitting in you know, a graceful place of, you know, what's the word? Well, where we're left in quarantine. We're in this graceful place of quarantine. And we've been given the chance, and it's all in the tarot, you know, all about the fall and the rise and all of this sort of thing. We're being they're giving us a chance to prove ourselves, and if we're worthy of joining their great party in the sky, that's what we want to get to, you know.
Yeah.
And they're waiting for us, and they can't wait, and they're trying to give us all of the help that they can give us without us being able to say at the end of it, well, we didn't do that on our own, did we?
Yeah.
We've got to feel like we did it on our own, you know?
I think humans as a collective feel like most people believe that it's just humans, like you say, are the centre of everything. But actually, even in tuning into spirit or ayahuasca or all these different ways we can connect to this higher intelligence, we have so much more support than we think.
Oh, loads.
Like, incredibly.
And you know, they don't, not higher intelligence, but the people who are controlling the planet and think that they're controlling the planet, they don't want us to know that.
Yes.
They really don't want us to know that. Yeah.
And that's a whole other segue in itself around why consciousness, in some ways, tries to be squashed and suppressed from things to like the food we eat. I remember we had a little conversation about when you started to walk away from like the regular human path of the system, realizing just about our food and how that really has an impact on the way that we are and the way that we can see reality.
Well, I mean, so for me, that kind of like woke up in 2003. Because, I mean, like Tony Robbins, sort of more of a physical, sort of motivational guru or whatever. I mean, he's now on the spiritual path more like the rest of us, you know. But back then, I mean, it was all about, right, try this, you know. Try not eating any meat or fish for 10 days. Don't have any coffee, don't have any sugar, don't have any vinegar, you know, do some like exercise every morning. You know, there was like sort of 10 gifts that you can give yourself every day. I thought, I'll try it, you know, tried it for 10 days, thought, bloody hell, I feel really good, you know. And it does change, you start to feel good physically, you start to feel better mentally as well. So if ever you get depressed, just hit,
you are what you eat.
Just hit, you know, like the mechanical things, just get your diet sorted out, you know, you know what you should be doing.
Even though it's challenging at first, it's so worth it.
Yeah, it's so worth it. And then I did it for 30 days and I just thought, amazing. And, you know, right, I did get the answer about how to live to be 140, it eventually came, you know, and it's all based on the Essenes teachings, you know, about fasting and dieting and that sort of thing. And, you know, if you really want to clean your body out, you know, to give yourself maybe another 10 years of life, then, just stop eating for a long time, you know, just drink water. And I did quite a lot of long fasts, you know. 35 days, you know.
Just water?
Just water. Yeah,
wow.
Water and enemas as well, you know, to clean your body out so that everything's coming out. And even after 35 days, the enemas were still like really dark. You know, I should have gone for longer, really. They say you should go for the number of days.
Where did you do your 35-day fast?
I did one in Peru. That was in basically just in it's about 12 kilometres into the jungle.
Wow.
Just there. And I did manage a long one in the UK, and it was cold, but I was doing saunas every day, which really helps because you need to warm your bones up when you're fasting if you're doing it in the cold. I did a 15-day fast in Israel, in the wilderness to see what it was like, how Jesus lived, you know. And that was some amazing things happened there, but that would do that on another podcast.
At any point did you feel like you were going to die?
I did after day 15 when I was in Tiberias, and I'd not eaten anything, and I just like completely cracked, and you know it's just like this satanic thing just took me over, and it's like I could see all the cars going through, nobody was stopping giving me a lift. You know, I know that I should have been more into the wilderness at that time, but I was just kind of like edging away. I needed to get back to Nazareth, where I'd got all my rucksack and stuff and everything, and I saw a McDonald's, and it was on a Sunday, and I hadn't eaten meat for a long time, you know, and I was fasting, but I used to work there, and I just thought, do you know what? Have it your way, mate. I'm going to go and have a bloody Big Mac. You know, after a 15-day fast, I'll do the worst thing possible, right?
Yeah.
I'll do the worst thing possible. Just, you know,
it's a bit of a fuck
take
you.
it.
Yeah.
Fuck you. I'll do it. Right? I went in there. I had a Big Mac and I had a Coke. Right, after 15 days of no food. I then went back to where I'd been sleeping.
Most people say you should have like minimal food, you should have healthy.
Fasting,
so you really went for an extreme.
Fasting's not dangerous, it's when you break the fast. That's what's dangerous. It's a way of coming out of it, and you know, it's really important that you do it properly. But yeah, it did nearly kill me. Yeah. You know, I was like in a lot of pain, and I was on my own. I just thought I was going to die, and I could feel the bubbles of the Coke going around in my blood. It was horrible. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but
so 140 fasting. If you want to live to 140.
Yeah, yeah, lots of other things as well. But
and people have been doing that for a long time, haven't they?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, the yogi. Right. Okay. Autobiography of a yogi. Right. You know, this Yogananda guy was. We've got no reason to believe that he's lying in this book, right? Because everything that he says, his whole life was about integrity to God. He's not going to lie about his life, is he? Come on, right? But at the same time, he's saying that it's possible to teleport a whole load of little kids from one town in India to another town in India, right? This apparently happened. It must have happened if he said it happened. Across to another side of India, where they went and bought loads of souvenirs that you could only get in that town, and then they got teleported back again, and then they went home, and all their parents were like, "How did you get this?" You know, oh, we went to so-and-so place. Yogananda, or it wasn't Yogananda.
Just a little teleportation.
Yeah. And so we know that teleportation is possible. Look at Anastasia and the Ringing Cedars, you know, what she talks about in there. You know, she definitely teleports
Do you feel this is from tapping into a higher consciousness, that teleportation, the higher source?
It's by the grace of higher intelligence.
Yes.
Get this, right? Bit of tarot, right? So you've got the Fool. That's when you set out in life and you're a child, basically. You know, Fool is not a bad thing. It just means you haven't, started to work out what's going on yet. You know, you're just in your infancy. And then you've got the Hermit, right? That's the next stage of life. That's when you're trying to connect with nature. You know, you're looking for, say, plant medicine as well. You know, solitude. You're reaching for Hermetic philosophy, which is what the Hermit is. You know, Hermetic philosophy being, you know, all the stuff that the Greeks and all the ancients were talking about to just try and understand reality. But then when the Hermit kind of like reaches the next stage for the Hermit is when he can manifest any synchronicity he wants.
What stage is that?
It's the stage of the Magician.
Ah.
Magician, the number one card in the tarot.
Magician.
It's the Magician. What is a magician? Somebody that can do magic. I mean, I'll tell you about one of the greatest magicians, right? So a man standing in his sovereignty, right? You've got all of these people that are like running around trying to basically bring him down, because he's got a lot of people that are like, wow, where's this guy come from? This guy's amazing, right? A lot of people trying to take him down. We want tax from you, mister. And he's like, oh, I don't carry money. I'm not into your money thing. No, you've got to pay the 5 drachma, otherwise we're going to take you in. And it's like, go and look in the mouth of that fish over there. And like the crowd are laughing because it's like, you know, he can do anything he wants. And then they go over there, you know, and it's like, opens the fish and there it is, you know. That guy, right? Well, we all know who that guy is, right? Jesus. Yeah, that guy was so fucking amazing. It took them 250 years to quash him down. They had to use all of these doctrines and written, you know, to try and explain, oh, this is how Jesus' life was. Read that story again without the passion. Read it from how it says it in the Bible. It's kind of true. I mean, you've got to remember that the lies are shrouded in, they're camouflaged by truth.
Yeah.
You know, you take something that's got lots and lots and lots of truth in it. Watch out for the bits in there that aren't actually right, or the bits that are missing.
Yeah.
The bits like reincarnation that are missing, that have been taken out. You know. And you know, this is why I love Christianity and I love all of that. But I just say the books are like leaves of a dead tree.
Yeah.
Don't go for the dead stuff. Go for the living stuff, where you're sitting in a field and you're praying and looking at the sun.
Experiencing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Experience it. It's experiential.
Yes, because so often we can get the theory of something, and people can tell us, and it's amazing. I think that's a huge part of our growth and learning. And I found that even with, I was talking to someone about something today, what was it? The experience of seeing a reality change in an instant. I got the theory of that, and then when it started to happen, it's a whole different ball game, because you're like, wow! Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing is, we're all reaching to be that magician.
Yeah.
And, you know, that magician can do anything, and I believe that they can teleport, manifest physical things. You know, Yogananda talks about the yogis that could just manifest food and then eat it. You know, it's amazing. If we just had one person that came along that could do all of that, you know, that would be really handy.
Yeah, and I believe in each of us, it's possible.
Yeah.
I think in every single person, it's not somebody who has to be a Tibetan monk or somebody who has to be of Yogananda, can't pronounce his name.
Yeah.
The lineage.
Yeah.
Betty off the side of the street with her shopping trolley. I think it's in every single one.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Especially if you're prepared to do the work. If you've got the self-discipline. And then kind of talks about that.
That's a whole
songs.
other thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't have the self-discipline. We know what we should do.
We talk the talk. Can we walk the walk?
Yeah. Apparently, I mean, the Essenes, I mean, you know, they were a Jewish sect that lived around, you know, the Dead Sea in Qumran, like 150 years before the Christ was born, and they planned for him to come. They actually got 3 women that they, you know, women that were like brought up in a really, really good way, that were eating all the right foods and everything, that were completely sort of like in flow with divinity. And Ollie, what are you doing? Oh, it's my phone. Sorry. It's on silent. It's making funny noise. Sorry, Ollie, I didn't mean to blame you for that. Right, so they got 3 women, right? And because they wanted one of them to carry the Messiah, right? And so they were immaculate, you know. And then basically one of them walked onto the temple steps on the day where they were going to choose, and there's a strike of lightning, and that was taken as a message from higher intelligence that yes, Mary would be the carrier of the Messiah. So they actually got the body right of the mother first, before then this amazing person.
The body born. Right in what way? What do you mean?
That she was flowing in divinity all of her life. You know,
in the synchronicity and in the connection to the higher.
Yeah. So if we can't do it, we've got to try and make sure that our children can.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even the small things can propel the world towards that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like when going back to Tony Robbins, one small deviation in your life, you know, and you over a time, it makes a big difference.
Somebody once told me, I heard this story, and I think it's an amazing analogy. If you're firing a rocket to Mars, and let's just say that's where you want to go, that's your dreams, that's your goals, that's your highest truth, and you and your love, so to speak, and you're aiming that rocket. And because we're on Earth, if that rocket is a centimetre out, when it gets out into space, it's going to be like miles away from Mars, right?
Yes, but then you do have feedback. If your system is built on feedback so that it can adjust itself as it's going along, and that's all about, you know, we make mistakes.
Yes.
We all make mistakes. I mean, I'll go and get a bar of Cadbury's chocolate and, you know, damn, I've done it again. When am I going to learn?
That indulgence.
Yeah, but we have to sort of like keep trying to pull ourselves back, you know, and of course Elon Musk is going to get us to Mars. Let's just big up for SpaceX there. I've heard a lot of bad things about Elon Musk, but I do actually really like him.
Yeah.
You know, he's
I don't know too much about him actually.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other topic, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, everyone's worried about his Neuralink stuff, but it's just trying to get there first because he doesn't want it to get into the wrong hands. You know. Yeah.
So, Peru.
Yeah.
Would you like to speak about the pyramid?
We can cover that.
Yeah,
another
or is there
time.
anything else you'd like to speak about? What time are we at? We're only, is that 39 minutes?
Yeah, I didn't check mine.
Yeah, we're at 39
39.
minutes. We could round up now, or we could have another little...
Well, I mean, we could say that people don't like the word hierarchy, right?
Yes.
Okay, I do. I mean, the way that I see it, there is a hierarchy of consciousness, and in our domain, the solar consciousness is king, right? That's how I see it, because you know you have to know where you're putting your prayers. I mean, if you want to have like a prayer about something that's to do with the Earth, then ask the Mother Earth. Don't ask Jupiter, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've got to sort of like put it in the right place. That's what I think anyway. If you don't know what you're doing, then yeah, just go for benevolent higher intelligence.
Yeah.
You know, that's always going to be benevolent then, you know. But so the pagans went with the solar consciousness, but then of course you've got like the Christ came along, and then it became the Christ consciousness. It's still the same thing, really. You know, the Son of God, S-U-N, Son of God. You know, the whole thing is the same. And
Just dressed in a different way.
yeah, just dressed in a different way, you know. Yeah. So yeah, that's the where I was going with this, the solar consciousness, the Christ consciousness. Yeah, this is it, right? So if you pray to God, right, then that's like saying, well, fuck you, Solar Sun. I'm not going to talk to you. I'll just go straight to the big boy at the top. That's an insult to the sun. That's why in Christianity they always say, through Jesus Christ our Lord. You'll put a prayer out to God, but you've got to put it through Jesus Christ, otherwise it's an insult. So, see what I mean? You know, you need to know where you're directing things.
Yeah.
Otherwise our planet Earth is just radiating this buzz of noise which is just going in all directions.
Yeah.
If we could like channel our energies like a crystal, and sort of like straight through the earth to the sun, or whatever it is, we work it out, because I haven't worked it out yet, but we need to work it out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all working it out, aren't we?
Yeah. I mean, do you know what I mean though? It'd be like, say you went and bought a pair of shoes, right, in the shop, and you didn't like them, so you took them back in, and you said, I need to change these shoes, you know, and the person's standing there, and you say, I don't want to talk to you, I want to talk to the CEO of Clark's, or whatever. It's just not right.
Yeah.
You've got to go through the right.
Yeah.
And that's what really, we're in our infancy, really, the sort of like, you know, the movement of everyone sort of feeling into, you know, where is it? Where have we got to put our prayers in that? People are like really putting it in their heart, and it's beautiful. You know, I'm sort of like trying to look at the tarot to give me some clues about how that structure, there is a structure, you know, I think there is.
How long has the tarot been around?
Interesting question. I mean, I think that it came from Thoth, right? So from Egyptian times, and you know they talk about the gypsies. The gypsies were the Egyptians, and the gypsies carried the tarot. And the 22 cards of the major arcana are the 22 leaves of the Book of Thoth, which tells us the story of reality. And it's the same story in the I Ching as well. I mean, it's interesting, you know, to sort of like understand what those segments are. I started on my tarot journey on the 10th of the 10th of the 10th, right? That's the
You
way we
and
do
numbers,
things.
Julian.
That's the way we do things, right? Because you've got the 10 Sephiroth, which make up the Tree of Life with the 22 pathways, and the allocation of the tarot onto the 22 pathways isn't what Aleister Crowley said, Dion Fortune, you know, Elias of Levy, whatever. No. There's a much better way of putting them on there. And so I was able to sort of like try and get to what I think's the right way through ayahuasca. And I'd be glad if somebody else came along and, you know, had a look at that and worked that out with me as well. But I mean, like for example, you've got, so the way that I approach the tarot, right? I'm only interested in the 22 arcana because I don't care about the other 56, right?
Yeah,
you know.
the minor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just not interested in them at the moment. But so the 22 cards, you've got like, I start to think, well, let's look at our holistic patterns that we can see, rather than sort of like delving into each one and sort of saying, okay, what is the high priestess? You know, what does she mean? And read all about the high priestess. No. Let's look at it as a whole, right? So the first thing is, can we sex the cards? Can we sort of like say one of them's either male or female? That's how I approach it to begin with, because you've got that, how we started this podcast, this split in reality, right? So yeah, I mean, there are some ones that are obvious. So you've got the Empress, you've got the Emperor. Right, they're a couple.
Yes.
If you've got 22 cards and you're trying to work out some holistic pattern, those two are going to be together in there.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
King and the Queen of the physical reality. Right? And then you've got the priest and the priestess. All right, you could say high priestess or the hierophant or whatever you want to call it, but still a priest and priestess. That's the king and queen of the spiritual realm.
What would you say about the tower?
Oh, we'll come to the tower. It's more about the people falling off the tower.
Yes.
It's the fall. It represents the great fall of humanity. Mm-hmm. That's what we're in at the moment, ever since we were banished from the Garden of Eden. Mm-hmm. You know about, I mean, look, I don't know how long you've got on this.
We can go for whoever's watching still. I hope you're still watching.
You can turn off if you get bored. We're going to carry on.
I'm certainly not bored. Let's keep talking.
All right. We'll come back to tarot, right? I do sidetrack a bit, right? But let's just rewind to how we got here, right? Because we said we were going to look at the 6,000-year-old history in the Bible, and we're going to compare that with the hundreds of thousands of years, you know. Mm-hmm. So basically, if you go back to Peru, Paracas Museum, I've been there myself, you know, a rickety old museum in the middle of the desert. This is like in the, you know, a while back now. But you could almost open the cases and take the skulls out. But there they are, these elongated skulls, right? Skulls like that, right? Now, they're not head-boarded or squashed. The volume of the brain was bigger than our brain. If they'd been crushed down, they would have been an awful shape. They're completely symmetrical. The Paracas skulls, very interesting skulls. You've also got the head bust of Nefertiti, which she always used to wear the big thing. If you go to the Berlin Museum, you can see it. I've been there, I've seen it, I've stood there in awe. One of her eyes is blanked out. We could talk about that another time. Big esoterical thing there. But she was wearing a headdress to hide this elongated skull. And on other carvings, there's no headdress. You can see that she's got elongated skull. Her husband, Arkin Tatum, whatever his name is, he also had an elongated skull. Their children had elongated skulls. There's a picture of them all together, happy family, all with their elongated skulls. This is a different race of people that were on this planet. They built the pyramids. You ask Graham Hancock, you know, he knows all of this stuff. He's got evidence for it. Mm-hmm. You know, we kind of know that there's this other race of people, right?
It shows up in different areas of the world and the different carvings.
Yeah.
Not just at this one point. Yeah.
I mean, check out the work of Lloyd Pye. I mean, they bumped him off probably because he's an amazing guy, Lloyd Pye, right? That's Lloyd Pye, P-Y-E, I think. Yeah. So he actually had a skull given to him, the Star Child skull, right? Which was like massive, like, and you know, you read anything on Wikipedia or whatever, and it'll say, oh, you know, deformed skull. But he did some DNA analysis of it. He found in it the FOXP2 gene, which is part of a genome of every life on even every blade of flower. This is one little like set of genes, right? The FOXP2 genes, and they're different from different species. Mm-hmm. So like the human gene, if you took that as being 100% accurate, well, not that it would be, but you use that as sort of like a starting point. Then like the mouse gene would be, say, there on the graph, and the chimpanzee would be right next to us. Yeah. So there's like this nice little line. Yeah. But then you take this Star Child skull where they found a FOXP2 gene, and it's not on the line. It's out of place. It must have evolved on another planet.
Yes.
It was carbon dated to be 900 years old. It was found in Mexico, right? So we know that local ET life is actually using the same DNA, building blocks of life that we are.
Yeah.
You know, and it might be that they can even mate with each other as well, right? So go back to this time when, you know, Atlantis had fallen. There'd been some comet strikes. Look at the temperature of the planet. You know, from the cores in the ice. You know, they've got a very accurate measurement of our temperatures. There's a massive dip. If you go back to the age of Leo, which was like 12,000 years ago, something like that. There's a big dip. There must have been a comet strike or something like that. I mean, Graham Hancock talks about it quite a lot. Right? So there's big changes going on. But at one point, for some reason, they decided to take what I think they did. They mated the Neanderthal that was already around for 300,000 years. Go and read about evolution. That was the Neanderthal. They mated that person with one of the star people, with the elongated skull people, and bang, Homo sapiens.
Oh,
yeah.
Humans.
So what do you do when you've got a little baby, you've got a nice little Adam, you've got a nice little Eve? You know, you're bringing them up, you put them in a garden, you make sure they've got all the food that they need, they're running around naked, and you just leave them, watch them, and they get older, and then you're sort of like saying, well, I want you to go and name everything now. You know, you're teaching them everything you know, the tarot, you know, the story of where they come from, all of that sort of thing. And then, you know, you say, oh, okay, but you're not allowed to eat from that tree over there. And they're like, well, why can't we eat from there? There's an apple tree, it looks really nice, you know, can't we eat the apples? No, you can't eat that from there. That's the knowledge of good and evil. You can't eat
The
from
knowledge
that.
of good and evil.
Yeah, that's what they're saying it is, you know.
Yeah.
You can't eat from that tree. And they're like, oh no, we want to eat from that tree. And then eventually, you know, they get
You know the story.
They eat from that tree. And then what does our fathers, the Ewan Gates School people do? That's it. Bye-bye.
Leave you to
We're
your
off.
devices.
You're now in the fall. You've got to go.
Yeah.
Humanity's got to go through this big, you know, dip, you know, and then shoot up the other side. And if you make it up the other side, we'll see you at the bar at the end of the galaxy.
Oh. And I'm sure there'll be some amazing magical drinks there at that bar.
Yeah. Galactic.
Pure
Galactic
essence.
Goggle blaster or whatever. Yeah. Mine's a galactic goggle blaster.
Wow.
That was
So so coming back to the original question of, I don't know how I exactly worded it, of what is reality?
Yeah.
How do you perceive reality?
Well, it just seems to be this amazing thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know.
An experience.
Yeah.
The human experience.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got so many different layers to it.
Mm.
In my human experience just now, I feel like I'm actually I relate when you were talking about the hermit, of learning.
Yeah.
Like doing this podcast and having
Yeah.
people like yourself on
Yeah.
and taking the bits of information and connecting to that higher divine love, you know. I do wonder though, because I haven't ever thought about the connecting to the sun or before that higher. How did you start off doing that? Like
connecting to the sun?
Or not necessarily, like, was there something before you connected to the sun? Like
Merlin. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
That was my spirit guide for a long time. Connecting with King Arthur, connecting with a whole
So there's different
King
channels
of Avalon.
how to...
That's my archetype, the King of Avalon. That's what I would love to sort of strive to try and, you know, every warrior that stands for Albion might want to try and achieve that goal.
Yeah.
You know, So at different times in your life, you have different spirit guides and that, and you know, it's good to have that, you know, because they're more local to you.
Yeah.
And you know, they're more local to you, and they can
Where you can receive
they
it
can
that
then
time.
go out and you see another thing as well is that say you have a problem, right, and say you're in trouble and you're worried that the police are going to get you, right, then you can talk to the spirit police. Those are the police that used to be around as policemen, but they're dead now.
Yeah.
But they kind of like see the bigger picture, and you can. Do you know what I mean?
You can ask them to help.
Yeah, there's a whole hierarchy of people that are now on the other side as well that can help.
Supporting.
Yeah.
With unconditional love.
Yeah.
Because they can see that everything is love. They're not in the human, and one thing that a shaman who's really dear to me said is, what did she say? This escaped me. Was the spirit actually honours us, and they think, wow, we're so grateful for you being here on Earth because you're in the shit essentially, like you're doing the hard dimensional
Well, we're in the game, you know. We're sort of like asking you shall receive. That's one of the rules of the game. I mean, you know, and standing in your sovereignty, you know, that's a good place to be. Even if you get slaughtered, we'll come back again.
Yes.
As long as you're standing in your sovereignty.
Reincarnate.
Once you give your sovereignty away, that's a bit tricky then, because then it's not so easy to get back here.
Yeah.
You know, because you're actually controlled by someone else's will.
Yeah.
But so standing in your sovereignty, really key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. For me at the moment, it's been connecting with angels as my gateway, and I found, and I'm sure many people find this, like you may have done with Marilyn, is you grow a deeper connection than you do with even humans.
Yeah.
And then it's just like magic. Things come in, things happen.
Yeah.
And I asked the angels, and it's coming from a place of not needing, but a place of, if this is for me and if this is for the good of all, if I ask for something, it's like they want to help us. They want to bring it in, and if something isn't for the good of all that I may ask, then I'll get a lesson on it, and it might be a really hard lesson, and even that in itself is them helping me, because that's how we grow.
Exactly. Yeah, and they've always got your best interests at heart.
Yeah.
You know, always.
I wonder if dogs connect with spirit. What do you say to Ollie?
Yeah, I'm confused about the animal kingdom.
I love the animal kingdom,
yeah,
as you know.
we are animals, but then they say there's something
gorgeous.
special about humans over animals.
Yeah.
You know, and
Although what
don't
about I believe beings like dolphins and whales.
Mm.
I think they have some real magic in their existence too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that you can talk to these creatures, telepathically.
Yeah.
Definitely. Whether they'll hear you or not is another thing, because they've got their own toxic stuff going on.
Yeah.
The sort of like foods that they get fed and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But with like the wild ones that are like in the sea, and well, even the sea's polluted. So do you know what I mean?
I know.
It's getting tricky.
I know it is getting tricky.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
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 So I will ask a question now that I plan to ask everybody who comes on.
Yeah.
If you had a megaphone or a microphone and you had an audience of the whole wide world in front of you, what would you say? What would you share?
I say, well, I mean, one thing I want to say is big shout out to my son Jacob.
Aww.
Yeah, and I hope you're out there, and that you're happy and that you find your way, and come and see me sometime.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, Jacob. I hope you're watching.
Yeah, I love you very much. Big shout out to everyone. Thanks for being interested in all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'd love to do another podcast.
Yeah.
And maybe talk about the tarot a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the I Ching as well. There's some interesting stuff in there.
Yeah. Gillian, I am so grateful to have you on this podcast, and as you know, people who've probably watched previous episodes, and you've watched the episodes.
Watched all your episodes. They're great.
Is that I've recently moved to Glastonbury, which is a very magical land.
Yeah.
The heart chakra of Earth,
Yeah.
so they say. And I've met a lot of people who are in their own journey, and there's nothing wrong with this, who say they're going to do something and they don't actually get around to doing it.
Yeah.
And I remember when I met you, you said you were going to do something and it's involving community, and I'm watching you before my eyes create it, and it's honestly so beautiful to watch.
Thanks.
Seeing somebody with a vision and a dream and watch it come into this plane and this earth, so that's really inspiring.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah. And I'm getting into building my roundhouse, and on the tour, and it's just like it's just living the dream. It's just beautiful. Yeah.
So I might eventually end up doing a couple podcasts a week. Who knows how this will evolve. But definitely would love you to come back.
Oh, thanks.
Yes.
I'd love to.
Thank you so much for watching. Any last words?
It'd be nice to get some music on. Some of the guys out here have got some amazing music. It's all synchronicity.
Yes.
Music is synchronicity, dancing is synchronicity.
Yes.
You can get such a lovely connection with higher intelligence when you're dancing, especially if you're on mushrooms or something, because it's just like bringing it in, and like you can just like go like that randomly, and someone will hit a drum at the same time. That's elemental, primal synchronicity.
Yes.
So bring those people in as well.
Yeah. Get some on the podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching. This is the Namaste podcast with Gillian and Ollie.
Say goodbye, Ollie.
We will see. See that little tongue. We will see you next time. Namaste.
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 Mwah.